Welcome to Eastern Shore Land Conservancy's 2020 Party to Preserve. My pleasure to introduce my friend Bill DeLonzo, who's the chair this year, and we're here at his beautiful Turners Creek farm.
So, Rob, thank you. Great to be here today. I want to thank everyone for their support. It's been outstanding this year, and even though it's a strange year, we can't be together in person, but we can be together virtually.
Yeah, so it has been a strange year. This is our first attempt to do an event during the COVID quarantine period. And I just want to reassure folks that we're still preserving land. Everybody's safe on the board and staff, and as far as we know, and our members, and we're getting good work done. We are remaining virtual in our work for a while, and hence this party is following suit, but we're making the best of it, and this is going to be fun today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Winden from Lion Rum in St. Michaels, Maryland. At our distillery here on the Eastern Shore, we are proud to manufacture remarkable American spirits from scratch. We are even more excited to have fantastic organizations like the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy that we can partner with and help them achieve their mission. For the last 3 years, we have bottled a very special batch of rum that directly benefited the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. We are proud to continue our partnership with them and very excited to present our rum to you today. You have our most popular signature dark rum in your gift bag, along with some ginger beer, in order to be able to make the most simple, refreshing cocktail out there. The rum and ginger, or as some people refer to the dark and stormy, we prefer the Chesapeake Storm, is a really simple cocktail, incredibly easy to make and easy to enjoy. So all you need is a glass, some ice, and the ingredients in your bag. Limes are always optional. When you have citrus, it adds a little zest and acidity to a cocktail, but with the combination of Fever Tree ginger beer and Lion dark rum, I think the drink is perfectly balanced as it is. You'll often see this drink served layered, but I tend to like my drink already mixed up. So it's completely up to you if you'd like to make it and layer it, or if you want to give it a little stir. But I'll show you the classic way. First, grab a glass, your favorite one will do, fill it with ice, and then fill it about 2/3 of the way with ginger beer. Incredibly easy. And then grab your little bottle of rum and top off your drink. The slower you pour, the better the layering effect. But as I said, it's also wonderful just to mix it up. If you want, take that lime, squeeze it in there, and you're good to go. Cheers, enjoy, and thank you for supporting the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy.
Happy anniversary, ESLC, from Rick and Kathy Aubin in Madison, down here in Dorchester County. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's 30 years for you all and 28 years of protecting our farm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who has volunteered for ESLC for 30 great years. And congratulations to the organization on a wonderful anniversary.
Hi, I'm Gabel, and I love ESLC because I love the Eastern Shore. I've been involved with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy almost from the very beginning, both as a supporter and as a board member multiple times. I love ESLC for the land conservation effort and the way the ESLC evolves as issues come around. Happy anniversary!
So hey folks, you're about to see a short film about 30 years of history of Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. And I really want to thank the folks that have been interviewed. Joe Hickman, Rick and Kathy Aubin, Chip Ackridge, Pat Langenfelder, Wayne Gilchrist, for your time and talents on this film. But I also want to thank, we've worked with 311 families so far on putting their family lands in preservation. So I want to thank all of you. I wish we could tell every one of your stories here today. So here you go, a brief history of the last 30 years for Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. I grew up in Severna Park, and I don't admit that very widely these days, but as a kid, I always wanted to come to the shore. And then when I went away to college, I, really ended up a forest ecologist, but as I learned more about different career paths, I really came to know I wanted to do land conservation. So that's what led me to Maryland Environmental Trust and then Eastern Shore Land Conservancy for the last 30 years. Right after I got out of law school, I was working for Maryland Environmental Trust, and I was running the Land Trust Assistance Program, which was trying to help local groups get land trusts started around the state. And first year of the program, we started 18 new land trusts, but we couldn't get anything going on the Eastern Shore. I was doing, making phone calls to whoever and sending letters, and finally Russ Brinsfield from the University of Maryland Y Research Center and Peter Brown, who was with the University of Maryland School of Public Policy, and his wife at the time was with Aspen Institute. Those two got together and answered my letter, basically, and called me over. And those two started the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy and really pulled together a founding group. I was doing the support work, helping them with the staff work during that time, but they did the heavy lifting, went out, raised some money, and when they advertised for an executive director, I applied. And so, sort of the right place at the right time. They were, like a lot of people, distressed at the time. This was in the late 80s, where most of the development on the Eastern Shore, and frankly north of 80% of new development on the Eastern Shore, was happening on prime farms where you could get perks. So stuff was just getting scattered around without any common sense design for the future of agriculture or towns or whatever. So they were like, we got to do something. After, we got up and running in 1990, and basically board of directors started giving us conservation easements. There was a lot of there's all this pent up angst out there. All of a sudden, here's a solution. You can put your land in conservation easement. So we were like, we protect maybe 2,000 to 2,500 acres per year with our current staff. Back then, we were protecting 5,000 to 7,500 with one staff. It just, people really wanted to do it, but it was running fast and furious to get a lot of land protected. And so we got good at that right away, and all of this landowner angst really manifested into probably put Eastern Shore Land Conservancy back then in the top 5 land trusts in the country. The board quickly wanted to grapple with, how does this all fit together? What's the bigger picture? And they came up with a vision statement for what they wanted the Eastern Shore to look like, the whole region. What do we want? We want the Eastern Shore to look like in 2050, and they basically came up with 3 things. They said, we want our towns to be vibrant and well-defined. We want our rural enterprises, they called them farms, forests, and fisheries, to be thriving. We want people to be able to make a living off of this place. That's a really important part of the heritage of the Eastern Shore. And we want our rural landscapes to be protected. This bucolic nature of the Eastern Shore was also important. So those 3 things they came up with in '92, and we really followed it ever since.
I'm Joe Hickman. My wife Marianne and I are owners of what we call Black Horse Flag Farm. I was born and raised here, and we bought it from the family about 20 years ago, and since that time we built our house here and have preserved it. I run a farm management business on the upper Eastern Shore of Maryland and Delaware, and work with a lot of landowners. Been a proud member of the Land Conservancy Board for a few years. I work with a variety of landowners from all over the country and the world, and some that live here. I have retired farmers, churches, schools, all sorts of charities, big investments, pleasure farms, hunting farms, investment farms from people all over the world. When we bought the land from the family, we knew we wanted to protect it. We put it in the Maryland Ag Preservation Foundation MALF program. For us, it helped pay down the mortgage, but we knew this was going to be our home and where we'd raise our family. I heard about ESLC from one of my owners, but I helped with, at that time, was the stewardship was important, obviously always important, but it was a one-person shop. And I started doing it. I got out to land and got to learn about it. And then a heartfelt thing, I had a farm I managed that the owners had to sell, and it was near a town, and I think it could have been handled a lot differently. And I realized, if they had if I had provided better information or gave them a resource, maybe they would have thought differently how it ended up being heavily developed. It could have been done differently. And I said, I need to learn more, and the resource was there from Rob on down to the great staff over the years I've worked with. When I first started about 30 years ago in management, the farmers were good and landowners cared, but mostly the farmers said, this is how we operate, and if money got short, owners said, well, maybe I'll sell a piece of property or things like that. The business was different. Now owners say, I want my farm to do lots of things. I want it to generate some income, I hope. I want some enjoyment out of it if I hunt or like to bird watch or walk or fish. I want the habitat and the environment to be better. And the preservation goes along with that. So right now I say landowners, I think you can have it all, and the protection of that is important, because farming is it's a long, slow business. Knowledge is everything for people, is finding out how protection works, how can it benefit them, but also being a sound resource that people trust. You'll have a lot of opinions when you own property, and other people want to buy it. It could be change in use, the county use, the state mandates for zoning change and land use. All those things come into it, but you need someone to say, listen, let me wrap my hands about what I've got here and what can it do for me, and even if it's in an area that's subject to development, how is it done thoughtfully? How is it done to provide access for all our communities? I'm a little biased in that they probably couldn't preserve enough farmland for me, and I know that's not always the right thing. Now with technology, being able to see the overlay maps and the planning and things like that allow people anywhere in the world, which I have clients all over that can say, oh, how does my farm fit into what you're thinking in Kent or Queen Anne's or Talbot or Cecil County. So that's helpful. I mean, that have those resources there, and knowing someone that has no interest in anything but providing solid information.
When I was a kid, I grew up in a house that my grandfather built back in 1919. He had a little farm in Anne Arundel County, and I watched everything grow up around it. Maybe it was back then that I thought if I ever did have my own property, that wasn't going to happen. So I didn't really know when I bought the first piece of property here in 1972. I bought it for hunting. I didn't know what to really do with it. So I learned more and more, and I actually put some slide presentations together about the farm, and that is how I met Rob Etkin. He started explaining about conservation easements, and that's the first I really got involved in interested in learning about them. And I knew everyone is different, and I tell people that all the time. And the thing that I really wanted here was to make sure that we were still practicing our silvicultural things here.
I grew up with a lot of respect for the land, and so when I became a part of this, it was so exciting to know that we share the same ideas about preserving, so that the next folk will enjoy as well.
Yeah, so I mean, we get the recreation opportunities we have here. We're doing everything we want to do on this property, and it's going to be here for somebody else. With development, you get fragmentation, and a lot of wildlife species, they depend on these big blocks of forest land, and so anybody that's interested in wildlife, that should be right up their alley.
Our generation, owe it to the next generation to make sure that we leave this earth in the best condition that we can leave it for them.
Well, I'm Johnny Ackridge III. Most people call me Chip. We've been here on the Eastern Shore since 1981, so we're pushing 39 years. I've known Rob Etchen for almost all those years that I've been here, and I'm a conservationist myself. We have several hundred acres here, and I've taken about 75% of that was in commercial ag production out of ag production and put it into conservation practices with the Conservation Reserve Program primarily. And we've been successful in reestablishing the wild bobwhite quail, which has been a real delight. The idea of conservation is deep within me. I grew up in the Great Smoky Mountains area of Tennessee. I'm a Boy Scout, I'm an Eagle Scout. I believe in leaving nothing but footprints when you leave. And that's one of the things that we've done here. We've made a big commitment to conservation, and that, of course, is one of the main stays of the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy's mission. Conservation is a broad topic and covers basically the entire world. And we got to pick our own little spot and see if we can make our own little difference. That's all. That's all you do.
Hi, my name is Pat Langenfelder. I live here in Kennedyville in Kent County. My family and I moved here in 1988 from Western Shore. Our area was being encroached by a lot of homes being built, so we could see the handwriting on the wall, and so we looked around for a while, and then we chose to come here to Kent County. Well, we preserved our land because it was important to us to have a base of land for agriculture. In order to have a viable agriculture, you need a whole lot of land, not just for one farmer, but for the whole entire industry in that county or that region. We thought it was important to preserve our farm. Also, our children are farming now here with us, and they are interested in continuing on, and now their children have expressed an interest to farm. So in order to keep that legacy going, they will be 7th generation Langenfelders for farming, and therefore we thought it necessary to preserve the farmland and keep it from encroachment like we were experiencing where we came from. Well, I think landowners would be wise to protect their land if they really truly love their land, and I don't mean to be critical of those who sell, because we did sell where we were, obviously. But if they have the environment like we have here in Kent, and there's a lot of natural resources here. It's not only the land itself, but there's, the waterfronts and historic places and things like that. And so preserving that for the future for others to either utilize for farming or to enjoy, even if they can't enjoy it in person, but to see it as they drive by, is important for others to consider putting their land in some type of an easement.
I'm Wayne Gilchrist, work for Eastern Shore Land Conservancy in what we call the educational component, the Sassafras Environmental Education Center, where we teach children from ages 5 to 18 about nature's principles here in 1,200 acres of state land. I think it was my first year in Congress, probably 1991. I got a call from former Governor Harry Hughes to meet a fine young man named Rod Etkin and a few other people that started the idea of purchasing easements on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And it was an extraordinary idea, and certainly ESLC has become immensely successful over the last few decades. One of the reasons I went to Congress is because I didn't think people over there knew enough about nature's principles or conservation. The big issue in the early 90s was non-tidal wetlands. And once I hooked up with Rob, I figured, my figuring way back then was that if you could purchase easements, stop development, have a farmer still own the land, that would be a great way to begin to understand the value of non-tidal wetlands and of marshes and of soil health and all those things. I just saw the precipitation of events occurring once you could preserve the land. We're standing on this area where I raised my children. My children on the Turners Creek and the Sassafras River learned how to fish and canoe and hike and swim and all that stuff right here, and the value of nature and their love for nature. So when I got out of Congress, I said, well, this is a great place to teach children. So my first friend that I went to was Rob Etkin, and then John Griffin was the Secretary of DNR, and a couple other people, but Rob got together with John, and they said, let's help this poor old political hack with the few decades he has left on the planet. So Rob pulled in the Sassafras Environmental Education Center into the umbrella of Eastern Shore Land Conservancy so that we could function as a nonprofit and all that means with the public schools. When the kids come here, all of them, these kids 5 to 12, they're like kids in the 40s and 50s. They love the outdoors. They want to climb a tree, they want to pick up a snake, they're gathering caterpillars. It's a wonderful thing. They also have this innate sense, almost oddly enough, of confidence. And in their little minds, appreciation and respect for their friends that are out here. No bullying, no teasing, just laughter and fun.
I think the future of ESLC is really bright. There's a lot of energy coming in, a lot of young energy, a lot of different perspectives, from different fields of work and types of expertise that come into play. Great people who really care about the Eastern Shore, who have the energy to really go to work for it. What I think all that's going to culminate to at some point is a greater emphasis on public access. We're really coming into a new generation of families and citizens who are able to vote and just engage with the type of work that we do. We need to capture them, and the best way to capture them is to get them on the land. A big part of that for us is just continuing to tell the story of the work that we've done in the past 30 years and how it's connected previous generations to it, and how previous generations felt that responsibility to steward the land much in the same way that the next generation coming up should do. Delmarva Oasis is ESLC's initiative to protect 50% of the Delmarva Peninsula by 2030. That's really going to require a lot of funding, a lot of partnerships, and just a lot more hard work just to get the land protected that we see as critical for the sustainability of the Delmarva Peninsula. We know that we have to continue protecting land, but obviously with the way that the world is going right now and the way that the environment is reacting to climate change and a lot of the other things that we're doing to it, we really have to ramp up the efforts that we're taking to protect the world that we live within. ESLC actually started back in 2008 the process of figuring out what it means to work with a whole community meaning beliefs, ethnicities, class, any type of thing that could describe people who aren't the typical ESLC supporter or constituent. It kicked off projects like the packing house, the Eastern Shore Conservation Center, and that redevelopment, and just the overall Center for Towns work that we do. So there's definitely been some major wins, I'll say, and major progress from what started back in 2008. This place is amazing, and Eastern Shore Land Conservancy has worked so hard for 30 years to make sure that it essentially stays the same and looks the same as we all, love it to be. But that doesn't mean that we can't continue to enhance it in a way that's, resilient, strong, and aspirational.
You see this tree right here? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for as long as that tree is alive, the phenomenon of photosynthesis works. But that photosynthesis, that phenomenon that keeps life on the planet, works all the time for our benefit. And you know what ESLC does? Quietly, relentlessly, reliably pursues its goals all the time. And that's what makes it that phenomenal wonder that it is.
Hey there, this is Michael with ESLC. Year-round, the land team is out walking the properties like I am right now to make sure that the lands that you help us preserve are being protected into the future. I wanted to personally thank you for your contributions to ESLC and let you know that there is no impact greater than one that will last beyond our lifetimes. Thank you again.
Hi, I'm Alex Kaiser, Conservation Specialist with ESLC. I'm grateful to have a job where I can get out here and protect the lands of the Delmarva Peninsula, but that wouldn't be possible without your help, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Josh Deutsch and I'm the Advancement Assistant here at the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. I feel very fortunate to be part of an organization that works hard every day to help create a safe, clean, and vibrant quality of life for our communities here on the Eastern Shore. I want to say thank you for all of your support during these unprecedented times. Your kindness and generosity gives me hope that a brighter future is just around the corner. Again, thank you so much.
So yeah, I'm Darius, ESLC's Communications Manager. So we're just gonna, sit around here a bit today and talk a bit about ESLC's future, what we see coming ahead, things we enjoy working with each other within the communities that we serve, and just let it flow. So David, just don't mind introducing yourself,
Sure.
telling a little bit about what you do, and yeah, it's a little intro.
So I'm Dave Satterfield, and Land Program Manager. Been here a little over 3 years. Started out at the bottom, moving my way to the top, and take care of all of our conservation work. So protecting the land easements and stewardship and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of work.
Lauren?
I'm Lauren Halterman. I've been here about 2.5 years, and I'm the Director of Advancement, and I do fundraising so David can save all the land.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yes, thanks, Lauren. I'm Carol Bean. I'm the agricultural specialist here. So I've been here about 1.5 years, and I'm working with our local farmers, trying to encourage new farmers to get access to farmland, making connections between our local food system and consumers, and just general ag education.
I'm Jim Bass. I'm the Coastal Resilience Program Manager, which means I'm the climate change guy. Eastern Shore of Maryland is the nation's 3rd most vulnerable region to the impacts of sea level rise. And so we've got our work cut out with us, particularly keeping in mind our land protection efforts in Delmarva Oasis.
Awesome. So obviously this is the first time that a lot of us have been here, together, since March?
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's great.
So I want to just kind of start things off with just asking everybody to share, what do you enjoy most about being able to work together for ESLC, with our mission and, where we're from, what all connects us to this place, what do you enjoy most about it? So anybody, just feel free to jump in.
So I think for a lot of people, when they think about conservation, it's more like, reservations, or, that it's more sort of a passive use of the landscape. And so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about how important it is for a rural region to have a working landscape, that the farming traditions and the fishing traditions of our region not only are part of what make this area so special, but that keeping those as vibrant industries is part of what keeps a rural character and keeps the open space and other things that environmentalists would sort of think of and embrace.
I just really enjoy the passion and intellect that everybody has here. I really wasn't as passionate for the Eastern Shore when I graduated from Washington College in 2015, so I moved away. And then I came back wanting to really get closer to that passion and just what it meant to be here. And if I had any other job, I really doubt that my passion would be as strong for Eastern Shore as it is right now. But come to a place where, I have over a dozen people working towards the same mission for the same place, same communities, I mean, it's going to really instill that passion in you.
You know, we talked about the passion that we have here, but we see it with all the people who support us and our donors and our board. You know, it's not just writing checks and it's not just showing up to board meetings. It's really taking an interest in what we do, helping to make connections, helping to be advocates and push our message forward, because it's something, you know, they care about. It's where we live. It's our community.
Right. I think I'm in a unique position with our climate change work in that I'm one of the threads of Eastern Shore Land Conservancy that kind of ties together all of the different pieces of the organization. You know, climate change is something that is going to impact every single different facet of our work. And so even if we have pieces of the organization that don't regularly touch one another in a really close way, I'm sort of the lens through which we are looking at the future, I think. So as we think about land protection, as we think about opportunities for farmers, as we think about building strong towns and resilient communities, like, we've got to think about all of it with the impacts of climate change in mind.
You know, I grew up on the shore. My family's a hunting, fishing family, grew up on a farm. So the connection to what we do here at ESLC was very easy. Even my family has an easement under our portfolio as well. So, you know, it was a nice, easy connection to get here. And my passion for wildlife and protection of wildlife habitat just was an easy translation for me. So this is definitely something that I have a huge passion for. You know, I want our community to flourish, and, you know, at the same time, I also want it to be the way it was when I grew up, because I enjoyed it that way. So I want my grandchildren to be able to do that too.
Right. It's all about supporting the community, and it's all about making a positive difference, and it's all about preserving this really cool, special place that people are fortunate to have grown up with. And I hope that people for generations to come have that same opportunity.
Don't really see many organizations that do such great work within communities and for communities like Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. Even though land protection is its bread and butter, it was still devoted to the communities and making sure people prosper. So that just really stuck out to me, and I just feel like the Eastern Shore needs more organizations, more groups of people, you know, kind of working in that way, just understanding the diversity in all of our communities and all the beliefs and the ways of living that we all have from county to county, and just taking a broad approach to support all of that. I don't really see much of that happening, so it's a cool place to be.
You know, people are more engaged with the organizations that they want to support. In a very similar way, people are more engaged at a hyper-local level about the awareness of climate change and climate impacts. And, you know, it kind of sucks being quarantined in your own home for months and months and months on end. But, like, when you spend months and months in your own home, you really start to know your own home and your own backyard. And it's amazing you know, like at the beginning, everybody was doing sourdough bread, right? And like, we've got more people gardening right now than we've had since like immediately after World War II, right? So like there are trends in people, you know, taking care of their own space, their own physical space, their own land, their own property in a little bit different way. People are, I know from inquiries that I've gotten in conversations that I've participated in, people are asking questions about, like, at the block level, at the neighborhood level, what can I be doing to manage precipitation differently? Or I'm concerned about sea level rise, how is this going to affect my neighborhood in the future? People are really, really engaged at the type of level that we want them to be focused about. It's great to be thinking globally, but like, if we're going to make a difference, it really needs to be grassroots. It really needs to start literally right in our own backyard. And the fact that more people seem to be thinking from that perspective, I think, is one of the great things that's come out of this pandemic situation.
I think, you know, this situation has laid bare some pretty, you know, hard truths, and I think you're right. There's some opportunities and things that come out of it, and I think, you know, for me, I think I had this awareness just because of my background, but it was, you know, interesting for me to see things like food security and food access and a regional food system, that those, maybe people don't necessarily talk about it in those terms, but those concepts, that there was such an incredible awareness about those issues, both what's sort of working, you know, all of our farmers markets that were able to sort of pivot and be able to be open, and I think that awareness that those were deemed, you know, like what is an essential service? I think that was something that really sort of came out of all this immediately. Like what's essential, and you know, food and food production is up at the top of the list there. You know, I mean, and so hopefully that will galvanize people into coming up with some creative solutions to some of the issues that we've known exist for a long time, but that maybe the progress and figuring out a more progressive way and a more sustainable way hasn't been maybe moving at the speed with which you would hope. So I think that there's those opportunities. There's just a greater awareness of those things and the impact in your own sort of personal life. And for me, just that recognition from people of how important your farmers are. Like that's your food on your table for your family. And it doesn't get more essential than that.
And I mean, I know I've been struggling sometimes here and there just to keep up with all the things that we can, you know, be communicating about during these times. But the thing that's really stuck out to me is just how important it is just to tell stories. Whether it's like an organization that you work for or like, you know, a club that you're a part of, everybody's just into telling stories right now. And it's given me a stronger perspective of how important it is for ESLC to keep telling ours. So, you know, how we're sitting here talking now, you know, the interviews that we've done over the past few weeks is getting stories from people. And I'm like, this is all gold that, you know, we have so many of these stories that we don't get out enough. So I'm just spinning my head about how can we just keep on doing that so we can let the public know what we do and, you know, just get more support for the work that we do.
Well, I mean, from the land perspective, you know, I think there are two big things that we're going to have to be thinking about for the upcoming years. You know, one of them, COVID's really taught people they want to get out and do things. They want to go to parks. They want to take their kids on a trail. And so ESLC needs to be thinking about, like, how can we increase public access? Do we need to be involved more with program open space to build new parks like the Ben Lee Park we did or the one up in Cecil County we did? You know, I think that's going to be a major desire of people moving ahead. So it's definitely something we're going to have to move into. Conversely, there's going to be an urgency to our DO work because, you know, people are seeing that most of the infections are being caused in the cities and they're thinking about moving to the country. They want to be in the smaller towns and the wide open spaces. And so it's more important now than ever for us to be protecting the resources, protecting the food security, protecting the natural resources and the habitat than it ever has been. Because I think we're going to see people from the Western Shore, from, you know, Philly or wherever, coming over here and trying to be part of this community. I think we have a great opportunity to really make change and protect what is here, but also help it to grow and be enhanced.
But can we go back to something you just said?
Sure.
So you said a really big number, 764. So that's Maryland, Delaware, and Virginia.
It's everybody, yes.
Everybody. And so Maryland, in our section, we're about 30%?
Somewhere between 27 and 30%.
Preserved.
Depending on the data.
Delaware and Virginia are?
Delaware is around the same as we are, about 25 to 30%. And Virginia is about 40 to 41%.
Okay. So when you say that big number, because I remember hearing that the first time and hearing the price tag and was like, oh my gosh. But we're not starting from zero. So we're 25 to 30% towards our 50%. So we're in good shape. But we have our work cut out. We did that and we did our piece of it in 30 years. We just need to work faster and harder.
Well, we also got to remember we're not doing this alone.
Right.
We have
some
tons
great
of partners. And we're, obviously looking for more partners to make it happen. Whether that's the financial burden or whether that's new people to do the work. I think the more partnerships we have, the easier that goal is going to be for us.
Right.
So I think the special thing about ESLC is it's a platform for really anybody who loves what the Eastern Shore is about to connect with. And we've always had that welcoming type of environment.
Right.
I mean, it just speaks volumes to the people that support us, that come to our events, that watch our videos, that like our Facebook posts, that walk through this building. It goes a long way. The more that we broaden that message, the more that we're just going to get people hopping on this train that's going to get the deal accomplished.
Yeah. Well, that's it, dude. Like, it's right there on the banner behind you. Land, towns, people. Yeah. That's everything.
It is.
That is the Eastern Shore, and I think it's so anybody can see themselves in something that ESLC touches.
Right.
That's a cool organization to
It
be
is.
a part of.
It is.
Here we are getting ready to have our virtual party to preserve, and everybody is stuck with us, and we have loyal supporters who are interested, I think, in what they're going to see, but also just really want to support us, and it's been just a joy to see people stick by us. So
totally.
Thank you. We do appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Oh yes. Well, speaking of support, it takes me to my next question. So, if you had $25,000 donated to your program or department in unrestricted funds.
Oh yeah.
I got you. Unrestricted. What would you do?
Say thank you. We could say thank you.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
The Party to Preserve has become an institution here on the Eastern Shore, and especially for Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. We've been doing it for so long, well over 20 years, and it is the one event every year where I get to see a lot of my oldest friends, people that have been involved with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy from the start. So it's very, very special to me. It's special to Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, and I want to say thank you to Bill DeLonzo, who's hosting it this year for us virtually, although we could have been at this spectacular place, Turner's Creek Farm up on the Sassafras River. But we've also had this at just some amazing places throughout the Eastern Shore, like Y House with the Tillman family, and Daffin House and the Jager family, and we've had it at so many others. The Wilderness was hosted by the Ravenels last year, and unfortunately we lost Earl and Carol right around the time of that event. So special thanks go to the Ravenel family for continuing with that event last year. But it's been an amazing run, and it's really due to the incredible hosts that take care of these beautiful farms and welcome the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy family into them for our annual Party to Preserve.
Hi, I'm Helen Spinelli, and I sit on the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy board. But in celebration of the 30 years, I'd like to tell you a little story. When I was a young planner in Carroll County, which is on the other side of the Bay Bridge, our chief of land preservation came up to me and said, "Helen, you live on the shore. Do you know Rob Etkin? Because he's starting this great organization called the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy." Well, at that particular moment, I hadn't met him, but I went to a meeting with Bill, and yes, I met him, and that was the beginning of my familiarity with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. So happy birthday, Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, 30 great years.
Hi everyone, this is Doris Mason. The Eastern Shore is such a beautiful place to be. I'm just so excited to be celebrating along with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy its 30-year anniversary as an organization preserving lands. I'll repeat what I've often said. The lands of the Eastern Shore are inseparable from the people, and the people and the land are inextricably connected. What a wonderful place to be. Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, we celebrate you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ramsey, and one of the reasons I love the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy is its emphasis on preserving farmland, preserving woods, preserving waterways, And also, another thing I love is that it really tries to get us to stop sprawl development by filling in our existing towns. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for all the support and donations that have rolled in. You all have been tremendously generous, and it's extraordinarily helpful and gratifying to see that. The Party to Preserve has been in person for many years now. This is the first virtual year, but your support has not fallen off, and we thank you for that.
And I want to thank the staff for pulling together through this quarantine. You guys are really rocking it. We've got a solid team to move into the next decade, and we have a lot of work ahead, but got 100% confidence in all of you. Governor Hogan proclaimed 2020 as the year of the woman in recognition of the 100th anniversary of Maryland's ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. So we wanted to make 2020 the year of women in conservation. So we are, as part of our Party to Preserve this year, we are honoring 3 women, Louisa Duemling, Gabel, and Jennifer Stanley, for their long-standing impact on conservation and their steadfast support for Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. I can say without a doubt that these 3 women are the most critical supporters to Eastern Shore Land Conservancy over the last 30 years. They've been amazing in supporting the organization and supporting me, and we would not be where we are without them. So here's a quick story about Louisa and Caroline and Jenny, and thank you for your support, and enjoy.
Well, I don't think I knew much about conservation, but I always loved being out of doors. As I got older, I got more interested in this farm, which my father was very interested in, and in modern agriculture. We sort of bonded over how do you farm. I kept thinking if you grew crops better, we could feed more people, which took me to the Cornell College of Agriculture, where I got my degree. Since I was a grown-up, realized the preciousness of land and undeveloped land, and how hard once land is destroyed, how impossible it is to get it back.
In the late 60s, I read a piece on how our water was so polluted and the Cuyahoga was catching fire and everything. I just got really mad. And so I ended up working for Congressman John Blotnick of Minnesota, who became chair of the Public Works Committee and wrote with Senator Muskie the 1972 Clean Water Act. So I didn't have anything to do with it, but I was there for the start of the whole environmental movement.
It was one place that I felt comfortable. I felt comfortable. I could talk nature and environment, and no one dismissed me. Well, women weren't supposed to be political, outspoken, and yeah, I just didn't fit the, the norm.
It was fairly hard. We didn't have much of a chance of rising, or we were paid less. And we were paid, we were not there to really do legislative work. The whole women's liberation movement was moving at that time too, and I think people, even men as well as women, started to realize what was really going on there, and things changed.
Well, I actually think the arena of farming
and nature, conservation work, environmentalism. I think it is very welcoming to women. If you look at the farm, the women if you look at the FFA, you know, FFA is Future Farmers of America in the high schools, the majority women, girls. I think I would just support what's happening, and it's growing.
You know, don't hold back because you're a woman. I mean, and you shouldn't let anybody hold you back. I mean, I know it's a fight.
You have to stick with science, you have to stick with the truth, you have to speak truth, and that's not my original saying, but you have to speak truth.
The city of Baltimore, in its infinite wisdom, decided that all the dredgings from that they take out of the harbor, yes, they were going to build a peninsula on part of my land. We have a point that sticks out, and put a 400-acre peninsula full of all the dredgings. And I said, well, I didn't think that was such a good idea. Well, too bad, lady. I said, no, don't say too bad to this lady. And so that's when I know I got in touch with the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy and said, wait a minute, we have a problem here. Well, I said to them, for instance, okay, we're going to have 400 acres. Is it my 400 acres? Is it somebody else's 400? The government's 400 acres. If it's the government's, can Tom, Dick, and Harry come and picnic and camp and do whatever they want out there? And do they have the right to drive all the way through my farm in order to get there? Oh, if it's mine, do I have to pay taxes on it? Oh, I mean, there were a lot of things they hadn't thought through. But the real killer was that it's wonderful spawning ground for the striped bass. So DNR got in there in a big hurry and said, wait a minute. And then they did Poplar Island instead, which has been a huge success, much more sensible.
The pressure on the land from people, from developers, is just only going to grow. So it's critical to save land.
I mean, this isn't just a simple little thing of, well, should we save that field or shall we put a house on it? This is, shall we save our air, our water, people's lives? But it's a pressure between the needs of people and the needs of the earth. And right now, I think the earth is rather mad at us. What Rob has done and with the organization is amazing. And the amount of land that has been saved and the brilliant ideas that come out and how they're working with communities and towns now. I mean, it's very exciting. And my grandson is chairman of the board at the moment. So we're very involved with it, yes, big cheerleaders.
So my husband was asked to come and to hear what some individuals wanted to do, their plan, their idea. And so we went to the Y House, and we heard this little presentation. And we were introduced to this young man who what they were hoping would be the head of it, which was Rob Etkin. And so he agreed to give them $10,000. That was their ask at that time. And it was, you know, the very beginnings of the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. Well, I think the idea that preservation of farms, we were already seeing the development. Many of the farms had been broken up and development was a little bit scattershot. And there wasn't a lot of planning going on in communities, counties. And part of the problem was that farms could be broken up, or they could farms could sell off part of their land and developments could start. So you had that happening. Farms needed to be saved. So here was a reason that farms could stay intact and they would benefit financially by putting their land in easement. Very important, because we were watching this all over the shore, particularly in this area.
Well, I know that I've saved some land that'll never be developed, so that's hard and fast, because that farm over there and all this farm has all been put into easement, so it cannot be developed.
My legacy is not going to be leaving a foundation. It's going to be the partners that I've worked with who will then themselves be sustainable. And so that's my goal. My legacy is going to be my partners, not glorifying me.
I think, to be honest, it's not what I have achieved. There is so much more to do. It is, I hope what I can represent is that the work is only, we've made small steps. We have a lot more to do. And I just hope that people will be inspired, women will be inspired, men will be inspired, boys and girls will be inspired to do everything they can do to protect nature and the environment and our beautiful country.
My name is Larissa. I'm a conservation assistant with the land team, and I love Eastern Shore Land Conservancy because we get to help protect and preserve beautiful land. And thank you for helping to make that possible.
Hi, I'm Lauren Halterman, Director of Advancement. I love working with donors like you to help make a difference here on the Eastern Shore. Thanks so much for everything you do.
Hi, I'm Jim Bass, Coastal Resilience Program Manager, aka Climate Change Guy. Eastern Shore Land Conservancy is an awesome place to work. It does so much good for the community. I want to thank all of our board members, all of our sponsors for making ESLC such a special place. I feel really fortunate to be involved. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julia, and I'm part of the advancement team at Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. I'm so proud to be able to use my work to support preservation on the Eastern Shore, and I just want to say thank you to all of you out there who are supporting as well.
Hi, I'm Owen. This is Luna. I'm the Town Projects Manager helping our communities create more parks and trails on the Eastern Shore. Thank you for all your support in helping us achieve our mission.
I want to give a special shout out to Bill and your team for an amazing Party to Preserve. The numbers aren't fully in yet, but we think this is our most successful Party to Preserve ever in terms of net proceeds. Our sponsorships were incredible. Of course, our costs are down, but it really has been an amazing success, and a lot of that credit goes to you and your team, Bill.
Well, thank you, Rob. As you know, it's a team effort, and we had a great committee and a great group of staff to work with, and the board have all been great. Volunteers have been great, but Carol Baker, Billy Boyd, Jerry Harris, Sue Simmons were very helpful as committee members, and Julia Babbitt, Josh Deutsch, Lauren Halterman, and Darius Johnson, and of course Rob have also really helped out and been a tremendous help to me as chair. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the supporters and donors for your very extreme generosity this year in this pandemic year, which has been a tough year and a strange year. And this has been a welcome, big positive for the organization.
Yes, so thanks everyone. I want to echo Bill's statements. It really is heartwarming to us to see this outpouring of support and to have some fun here today. It's been great. And I want to thank you, all of our supporters, for your role in this, and be safe out there, and let's hope we can be together next year this time and give each other a big hug and a high five.
And exceed this year.
And exceed this year, right. So thanks again, and have a great weekend, and be safe.